Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans. Don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's weekend frivolity. This is our Broiler Chicken Show. Buck, buck, buck. Happy middle of July, July 4th, 14th, beg your pardon, 2024. So pretty much marching through now, halfway through the month of July. Sure hope you're enjoying your summer wherever you are in the world. I suppose if you're in the southern hemisphere, this is the dead of winter for you. So hope you're hanging in there. God, don't even hear too much from the Aussies anymore. God, we used to have tons of Aussies all over the site. But I would imagine life's a little bit challenging down in Australia these days. If you are an Aussie and you are an OG, maybe drop a comment, say hello. I would love to hear from you guys. Actually, I've gotten some really cool hellos from people all around the world. Raf and Bobo, God, I think about you guys all the time from Corby. And I don't think Bobo would say he's from Corby, but anyway, had really nice interaction with them. It's some great memories of Raf and Bobo, but memories I can't talk about on this video. Anyway, super fun. Ironically enough, actually, I'm in a relatively jovial mood. Oh, hello, BP Shogun from Tokyo. Actually, I think the best name I've ever heard for a band was, I think it was called Tokyo Police Club or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Man, that's forever ago. God, I remember that. A million years ago. Anyway, hello. And wherever you are in the world, a hearty hello to you. It's again, I mean, it sure is interesting times in the market. So as I was going to say there a moment ago is now that the market is finally broken and we actually made it through the seasonal trough window. I mean, I don't know whether well, I don't know whether we're going to have any new people to crypto watching this kind of broadcast or not. I do see that, 10 years doing this, I'm just not making that traction with the public, which kind of is a shame. Suppose what's Einstein's definition of insanity, eh? But incredibly valuable learning experience for all of you there. Middle of winter, of course, everybody's uber insanely bullish and completely wrong thing to do, especially heading into a big fundamental event like that, a happening event. Now coming out the other side, and unfortunately what I do see is any kind of sort of sneeze of bullishness, all of a sudden everybody becomes all uber bullish again. And ironically enough, we won't officially bottom until all of those bulls have completely disappeared. And we actually get to the point where people are kind of hopeless in this space again. That's usually when bottoms come in. It's kind of tragic. I do think there's a nice seasonal window that's come up here. And about I don't know, maybe about a week or two ago, we did get a nice washout move that it really felt like that marked the bottom because it was just like the floor fell out of the market. And actually in this week's newsletter, I included another name that I bought recently, thanks to my good buddy Chris here, who's helping me get filled on these orders. Really, I've always wanted to be long Danny. I don't know whether this is going to be Danny's great claim to fame this go round, but he did pretty well with this name last insane crypto cycle. And you can see coming out of the trough of 2023, it did produce some pretty nice returns. I wanted to have some of this on the books. I'm not allowed to chase. I have to work stink bids. And if anything, I really like kind of like Julian's favorite fib now, 88.6. I like to call this the venture cap reload zone, 78.6 down to 88.6. I had stink bid working there at 52, thanks to my good friend Chris there. And we got filled. And interestingly enough, basically that was the bottom the day that I got those kick-ass fills, playing this one. And I also bought another one. What was the other one that I bought? Old man itis. Anyway, there was another crypto that I bought. I think it was last week that I was talking to you guys about that as well. Actually, I bought it for Liam. It was Liam's money actually that I spent. I hope Liam's lawyer doesn't call me up and sue me. BNT, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Glass Insights. And actually, that's one of, well, I don't know. I can't speak for him. But other people have thought very highly of this BNT. So I was like, oh, what the hell? It's not a bad place to have some money working. So, they take the market right back down against the lows. I'm more than happy to go in there and nibble away. And actually, I have a whole bunch of dry powder that I would like to put to work. The only problem is I think I'm allergic to this ledger thing now, because I can't make it work to save my soul, which is kind of a shame because capital's just sitting there waiting to be used. I think what we'll probably do is try and move as much of this stuff off of this ledger onto like Coinbase or Kraken or something like that, and then just trade off of these centralized exchanges, because this whole DeFi experience and working with the ledger has just been an absolute nightmare for me. Anyway, that's here nor there. This was a different approach that I took, not using the ledger, but doing the transaction off ledger. So anyway, off ledger, how ironic. Point here though is, do you hear a lot of people getting uber bullish about buying stuff right now? Not really. Hey Brian, thank you for your content from Ghana here. Wow, that's cool. Where's Ghana? I don't even know where that is. Is that in Africa or is that in South America? Regardless. It sounds very equator-ish. Anyway, welcome 225. Andy Sun. Hope you're getting some good value out of the content that I provide. A little bit ranty, I fully acknowledge that. And sadly, of course, my country in particular is actually in a very, very bad cycle right now. And I've been teaching this program, Fear, Greed Cycles, for basically 10 years now. And when I started, of course, my country was in a friendly part of the cycle. Omar says Coinbase supposedly has 250,000 insurance as long as portfolio doesn't super something that amount, it should be okay. All right, well, that's kind of cool. Thanks for that feedback, Omar. Appreciate it. Actually, Omar, aren't you down in the States somewhere? I think I remember. Was it you who was trying to convince me to move to Texas a while ago? You're in Los Angeles, eh? God, I used to live in LA, Palos Verdes. Actually, you want to hear something really tragic today? I couldn't believe it. It brought a tear to my eye. But Shannon Doherty, she passed away, cancer. Poor dear. My sister, she used to love watching those shows. It's a little bit beyond JoJo's time, but I used to live in LA back in those days. They lived in Beverly Hills. We lived in sort of like the wrong side of the tracks. We lived in Palos Verdes. If you know what Palos Verdes Hills is, one of the neighborhoods is Rolling Hills Estates, and it was a gated community in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the world. It's a gated community. Can you believe that? So anyway, poor old Shannon. Anyway, she's resting with her maker now. I don't know whether, I can't remember whether Jojo liked 90210 or not. But actually, it's kind of funny because we sit and we listen to one of JoJo's albums that we happen to have in the car because we have a CD player there, and I absolutely detest listening to the fucking woke radio nowadays. It's absolutely stunning how this younger generation is, they are just being brainwashed listening to these woke radio stations, and it's like commercials from the government and stuff that are promoting these woke agendas and stuff. So I mean, the poor kids that just listen to the radio, they're listening for the music, but the commercial advertising is just disgusting. It got to the point where I was like, you know what, I don't even want to bother listening to the radio anymore. So all we do is we listen to CDs. I don't know if you remember what CDs are, but our car has a CD player, and ironically enough, they're all JoJo's old CDs. So we sit and listen to Clueless. I don't know whether you remember Clueless. That was a movie. That was one of JoJo's favorite movies. She had the soundtrack to that. I want to be a supermodel. I'm not going to eat today. I didn't eat yesterday, and I'm not going to eat tomorrow. Okay. I want to be just like Tori Spelling with a car like hers and a dad like hers. How can you tell I've heard that song 500 million times? Anyway, Jojo likes him, or Jojo's baby, Lily. He likes that music. It's nice and bubblegummy, and he bounces around in the back seat of the car, listening to the bubblegum music. Anyway. So a prayer for Shannon and all her friends. And ironically enough, and I've seen this happen before too in our lives, where sadly I think probably not a lot of people are going to mourn her and her passing, because obviously you know who, and all this nonsense is going to dominate 24/7 across the media now. I'm not quite sure how this it plays out, to be honest with you. I did put a tweet out yesterday because, of course, I love hearing the sound of my own tweets. Watching this video here, like quite literally, he was actually hit. The gunman hit his ear or something like that. Remarkable. I don't know what happens here, though. I do find it interesting that, Biden was going down like a fucking Zeppelin. You want to know what? I don't know. Hindenburg crash. I don't know whether this will. Yeah, I mean, this is basically Biden. It would be cool if we had like a GIF. I wonder if there's like a GIF of this. Because like quite literally this is what Biden was going through. I mean, it was like it's a slow moving fucking train wreck that's just getting worse and worse and worse by the day. And a big part of me believes that the Democrats, and keep in mind, these motherfuckers, these people play hardball. These people play hardball. There were connections with the bankster crooks, with the guy who whacked Lincoln. There were bankster crook connections, of course, and I think everybody was in on it with Kennedy. And not only were there bankster crook connections, but CIA and mafia and the whole thing. I mean, Kennedy made enemies with everybody. And I definitely think that this was exactly the same thing as Ronald Reagan when they took a pop at him. I mean, it'll be interesting, especially with the way that the media is so owned by the left wing and owned by these corporations. I mean, it would be fascinating that, it is fascinating, when 60, 70 years later, we still haven't figured out the plot behind Kennedy's assassination. I mean, come on, it's plain as fucking day. It's just it's in nobody's best interest in the 1% to actually pursue it anymore. They just wanted him dead and just sweep it under the carpet. So that's basically what happened. I remember actually going through this, and I also remember explicitly Mr. Reagan. He actually did an interview on Johnny Carson when he was governor of California, saying, enough is enough with this fucking crookster money system. We're going, and theoretically, these U.S. states are supposed to run balanced budgets, but look at what's happening in California. I mean, they're theoretically breaking the law every single year that they run these deficits. But it doesn't seem to phase anybody there. I'm not quite sure why. But when he was governor of California, of course, his big thing was, balanced budget, balanced budget. And he went on Carson, which of course is based in LA. And he was like, if I'm going to be the Republican nominee, then we're going to bring sensible government back to Washington and do things like balanced budgets. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, pow, 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 pow. And then instantly his stance completely did a 180. And he became like historically known as the president that basically endorsed this deficit spending world that we live in, which is, I might even argue this was sort of the advent, although you probably could make the connection with Nixon in 1971 coming off the gold standard. But I would make the argument that this was the catalyst that actually ushered in our modern era of, sadly, fiat currencies are worthless. Don't save money. You better spend it, because at some point the 1% is just going to come along and hyperinflate that money away into non-existence. Poof, and it's gone. And as I was joking with Chris earlier, he actually put out a really cool summary video. And actually, I just saw it this morning and I was like, holy shit, because I saw the notifications. Some people on YouTube actually were watching it. But 300-400 people watched the video so far. So nice on that. Not that many likes. It's kind of disappointing, but oh well. And the title, right? The millennial greed cycle will be epic and mint a new generation of millionaires. I mean, I've been barking to people about how this is basically our fate. And the interesting thing is you don't see this in the price charts because they've completely manipulated the currency and made it completely worthless. So as a result, this image does not look like this. This is the adjusted image. If this was one-to-one relationship, which it isn't now. If you look at the Dow, it's just ridiculous how diluted the currency has become and what they've done to this thing. I think the Dow just crossed like 40,000 or something for the first time, so you can just imagine if this was one for one and equal, like this is what's coming down the pike. And we're just trying desperately now to recapture this whole bullshit world that we've lived in over the past 20-30 years. It's quite remarkable how this has actually played out. It's actually been incredibly cliche. This quite literally is, we're living through the Great Depression of our generation. It's just they will not let the prices fall because, deficit spending, everything that I teach all you guys, there's no way that they can. So what they can do though is they can sacrifice the currency, and they just are fucking money printing like it's going out of style. And so as a result, ironically enough, it's a Great Depression, but it's a sneaky depression because they make the appearance look like the economy is still growing, but it isn't. And actually, one thing I found really fascinating recently, which kind of surprised me, but at the same time too, trying to figure out what these banksters' agenda is next to impossible. But at this recent FOMC meeting, Jerry sat there with a completely straight face and said, the economy is growing about 2%. And I think that that's actually a pretty aggressive number. I'm hearing a lot of people, sort of more conservative analysts, think that the economy is growing at about 1%. I think the data right now, first quarter, second quarter GDP kind of stuff, is at about 1.5%. So I don't know whether it's on the conservative side. If you listen to half of these people on social media, you'd think that the fucking end of the world is coming every goddamn week. It's shocking how there isn't a movement on this YouTube platform to go, for the past 5 years, you have been saying that the stock market is going to crash any day now. So why don't you stop with this? And yet they get like, look at this guy. Home prices will drop 50%. Sell down, sell down. I mean, I don't understand why and what is this? This is 177,000 views. And the Beamish can't even get 400 views on actually information that I think is way more accurate than these fucking doomer and gloomers. I don't get it. This stupid fucking world just tries to create, and the irony, I've told OGs on the site will know this, but I used to say this all the time. When I was over at the prop firm and I said I was going to go do this, try to make positive difference in the world, trying to, and they were all like, Brian, just shut up and get back to trading. And then when I was like, all right, I'm done, guys, I'm leaving, I'm going to go do this website, they actually got pretty pissed off at me. And I hate to say it, but 10 years into this and only 361 views of this, clearly whatever it is I'm doing, it's not working, and they were right. I'm sure somewhere Nebraska out of nowhere is going, yes, I knew it, that motherfucker, I told him. Oh, well, what can you do? So I don't know where I was going with all that, but this is a really interesting piece. So do yourself a favor, take a boo at it. I think we'll try and tweet this stuff out now too. We should try and get these things have a little bit more traction. Anyway, how ironic. I mean, that's basically what our future is. I mean, this economy is going to go crazy. And I find it incredible that people are actually talking about the Fed lowering interest rates. And yet, what's the stock market doing right now? The stock market just made to new all-time highs? And they're talking about lowering interest rates. How does that work? I did find it interesting that in China to hear the stock market hadn't done anything for a while. Then they did lower interest rates, and that encouraged the market to break out to new highs. I could understand that if the economy the Canadian stock market has done nothing over the past 3 or 4 years. So, I can understand that. But with the US stock market breaking to new highs, how on earth do you justify lowering interest rates in the face of that? Doesn't make any sense to me at all. All right. Well, anyway, I suppose, and here is your stock market. You're going to lower interest rates in the face of that? What are you, crazy? It's baffling. And I don't really even I see anecdotal evidence that we're getting close to some sort of pivot. You can clearly see that Willie is stupidly overbought. We don't have any RSI divs or anything coming in yet, though. And you can see MACD is trying to div out. We are making new highs, but this has to confirm. And anybody who's taken my education program and understands the difference between potential divergence and confirmed divergence. So if we were kind of like 3 reasons for a trade, I think you could make the argument that we're at trade location. We've got, this interesting from that last eclipse window into the end of the year. And then coming out the other side, that was the AB equals CD objective. And that was at about 5,500. My hunch here, 5,400, 5,500. My hunch here is actually this acts as the pivot going forward. The market's probably going to oscillate around that level. Markets love to do that. They'll go shooting beyond that ABCD objective, but then they'll come back and they'll just oscillate around it because this harmonically is where the market really wants to be. A lot of this stuff in the short term is just, a little bit over fluffy. Having said that, you can see that the market did give a little bit of a price head fake, but as I had said there a second ago, on that price top, there was no actually confirmed divergence. And no, I don't see any M's in these indicators. and volume OVV is still pointing up. We were sort of wondering whether we were going to break. We teach that volume impetus concept in the course, and I would argue, big bull market, rah, 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 look at me, I'm a bull. That was right in here on the price chart. Intense bullishness, and of course, OBV cranking higher. Then you see that we actually got a little bit lower of a buying bar. So our heavy buying here, a little bit less buying up top here. So that does start to actually paint volume divergences where we're making higher highs in price, but lower highs in volume. And then the question is, do we get that third lower high, which could have potentially been this one here. So 1, 2, 3. And you notice that we had a big, well, not big, a low volume day there, which actually confirms this double top. But you notice that instantly the indicator just reversed, and there was enough buying pressure here that the indicator itself pushed to new highs. So no M's came in here. So we never really did get confirmation from the indicator. And then interestingly enough, we have a higher volume bar here. So I have a feeling that whatever top is now in place, I think it's up, down, up. And if we get a low volume bar down in there, that maybe is what causes the bulls to fall asleep. Let's keep an eye on the OBV indicator itself, right? If we start to either get the buyers just disappear, really, really low volume bar day, and then you notice that the sellers are ramping up here a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. So, if we can get some sort of M or something to come in on the indicator on that very low volume day, then we're going to start getting indications that the bull is exhausted itself and the bear is starting to wake up. But it's not there yet, right? It's you just gotta wait for it. And frankly speaking, it just might not come. And then actually looking for a trade, quote unquote, once all those indicators all start firing, and we've got the confirmed divergences. I think we do have trade location. Like I said, this was a bullish bot objective. It's actually a pretty big one too. So this was, let's see, where does that go? There is the completion pattern. Boom, 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 boom. I think this is off of here. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that looks like about right. So we could probably do one like this. Let's go like that. There to there. And there to there. Yeah. So in harmonic land, this level right here, this yellow line, is actually called a PRZ. So actually, let's see if you can show off your fancy schmancy harmonics acumen. What the hell does PRZ stand for? Of course, any level 3ers worked with me. Of course, you all know that. You probably hear Brian in your sleep. So that is technically trade location. As I said, what I would like to see is I'd like to see, I mean, we have really the irony of it all is that really as of this point right here, we really don't have any business being buyers of this market. And you can see how long Willie can remain stupidly overbought. And then we finally get a correction that cleans price up, starts painting W's again, and then buy signals, W's in RSI, W's in MACD. All right, new buy, away we go. Then the market gets stupidly overbought. Geez, look how long this one lasted here. That was all through here. And then you notice as the market cleans itself up, and then, oh boy, here come the W's again after cleaned up. And really, I mean, a very sharp MACD one, but you can see the W in price and new buy signal. And that was basically that most recent bot setup. So the market actually is ridiculously overbought. It's got potential divergence written all over it. Is this event here with Mr. Trump going to maybe initiate a bit of a pullback in price? And does that fire these divergences? I mean, I will say that Julian is a big fan of his RSI study. And I have been noticing, studying over the past while, that really we would like to see RSI actually be in divergence and start actually painting, M tops and new trend lines down. So I don't think there's any real break in the market here yet. Yeah, we'll see what happens. You can't write better fiction than reality. The irony of all of this is, and really, it would be absolutely impossible to come up with any sort of definitive what the hell is going on down there in the States right now. I mean, is this some sort of plot by the left wing to try and get the narrative changed? Because, like I said, right now, well, where's my funny little Hindenburg? Right now, I would actually argue that the powers that be on the left wing, they had to do something to change the narrative. This Biden guy, he was just killing himself day after day after day after day. How ironic, using that term. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. If it's one thing that you probably hear from me, is that there is no story that's too outlandish. We always say you can't write better fiction than reality. It's absolutely impossible to write better fiction than reality. So if you were watching Biden, and we were even joking in the lounge and in conversations, that really Trump didn't have to do anything there. All he had to do was just stand there and just go, "Can you believe this guy? He wants to be your president of the United States." And, that previous debate was absolutely perfect. He goes, in one line in the debate, he goes, I would respond to what he said, but I haven't got a fucking clue what he said. I didn't swear. I haven't got a clue what he said. And then he finished the comment with, "And I don't even think he even knows what the hell he just said," which is just perfect, because it just totally sums up Biden perfectly. Just rambling on endlessly. Probably actually half of like what I do, is blah 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 endlessly. Anyway, so how does this play out? Was this a plot by the left wing to somehow change the narrative? All right, send that fool that we've had, that pigeon that we've had in storage for the past 6 months. Send him out and let him take a whack at Trump, and maybe that'll change the conversation. And how ironic, eh? They always say, like I said, you can't write better fiction than reality. But of all the things, like for him to miss, and him actually to hit his like ear. So what's going to end up happening, the irony of all this is, I actually think it actually is going to go the exact opposite direction, where Trump's going to be labeled some sort of hero or something. I survived the assassination attempt. And actually, what's interesting, I even pointed it out, that at like the 22nd second mark of this video, you can actually see him right, where is it? Right, look at it. You can actually see him go, "Oh wow, what the hell? What just hit me?" Something actually just hit him. Look at that. It actually hit him. And he survives. Incredible. Somebody in the comments goes, "Oh yeah, this is all faked. It's all drama. It's all staged." I don't know. I don't know how you can stage something like that. That's almost impossible. They always say, like I said, I've said it 2 or 3 times, you can't write better fiction than reality. That is absolutely, that is a historical moment. So I guess the question here is, who else would be interested in taking a pop at him? And I do find it interesting, and this was my comment, was as I said, a certain part of our society did not like this whole idea of balancing budgets. And they wanted to make damn sure that the gravy train continued on. And I think they sent a message to Mr. Reagan, hey, you either play ball or you're dead. And I think that the exact same message, the exact same thing just happened here with Trump. What's interesting too about this is, and I think I've barked about this a while, is but I saw that the very popular art says tongue in cheek, um, Tucker Carlson, I think his name is. Um, he was even saying that an assassination attempt. You could just feel it was building. It was coming. Something like that was. It was just. It almost felt like it was inevitable. Anyway, there it is. Boom, done. Um, I impossible to tell how this is going to play out. But one thing I will absolutely say, and I definitely feel this, is things like crypto and, ironic enough, the stock market to a certain degree, but especially crypto was kind of under the gun here recently. And of course, last week I put out tweets going, "Holy crap!" That, I mean, that's the biggest, ugliest M top you're ever going to see. So the writing's on the walls, but in a weird sort of way. And I've seen this happen before. I remember specifically the stock market actually had a very similar type of topping pattern. It was really, really overbought. Um, and there was a politician in the UK who was shot. And the sad thing is the politician was a relatively minor figure. I think they died. I'm not absolutely certain about that. It was 10, 15 years ago. Well, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago. Anyway, if anybody remembers that in particular. But I remember specifically, and I've seen this happen before over my career, that it's like energy in our universe. I'm not quite sure how any of this even works, really. But energy is building, pressure is building, pressure is building, pressure is building. And then something like this happens. Um, and in a weird sort of way, what should happen here is this should change the narrative. What probably is going to happen here is probably for the next, and you can even see it here on our funny little news feed on the site. You can see that all of the news headlines, everything, all of the attention is going to be focused on this, right? What we know about the alleged blah, 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 blah. Former FBI agent breakdown about the investigation, blah, blah, blah. Unblocking the political moment, blah, 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 blah. The RNC will proceed as blah, 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 blah. Reagan survived the assassination and blah, 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 blah. Hey, there's a reference to Hamas. And then what I found interesting was as I was reading through there, it's like, oh, Shannon Doherty died. Isn't that a shame? Anyway, actually, Shannon and I are basically the same age. So she's kind of lucky. She got off. Anyway, interesting. Poor old Kate, Princess of Wales. She actually has cancer now. Poor girl. It's interesting how both of these are cancer stories. So I just found that my and this is my hunch, is that we're gonna have a lot of people who are just gonna completely forget about everything else that's going on, and the only thing that's of any concern whatsoever is all about this assassination attempt on Mr. Trump. Um, and there was a funny movie that I was thinking about, but I can't remember what it was. It would be the perfect sort of meme, kind of like troll tweet kind of thing. And I can see it in my brain, but I can't remember what movie it's from, where the guy's like at the podium, but he knows that somebody's trying to kill him. So he's sitting there dodging and weaving through the whole thing just trying to make sure that he doesn't stay in one spot. So the guys taking shots at him can't hit. And I'll probably think about what movie it is, like when I'm like halfway down the road with Liam this afternoon. But as soon as I find that reference, I'm so going to do that, because you know that Trump from now on, anytime he gets on stage, now you know in the back of his mind he's going to be going, all right, are they going to take a pop at me? Are they gonna, is this it? Is there a shooter sitting? I mean, he actually got hit in the freaking ear. He was actually hit. So that is gotta resonate in his subconscious. So, man, crazy ass world we live in. And what's even funny is that as the sort of rally was going on, they even there I saw interviews and stuff with people on the street that were going, hey, we were trying to point out to the police there's some guy climbing up this roof with a fucking rifle on his back. I mean, so the irony of it all is that, the guy was sitting there doing his thing and nobody stopped him. Quite remarkable. I'm sure all the conspiracy theories are, I mean, this is just going to dominate our conversation probably for the next week or two, which I'm sure Mr. Biden is finally going, oh, thank God the spotlight is finally off of me. So I'm not even quite sure how this works and how this is going to play out. But I would just simply say is I've seen similar situations, and what this usually does is it breaks the tension in other markets. And now the interesting thing about crypto, and really that's half of the reason why you guys are here today, aside from the stock market, I mean, the irony of it all is that the stock market might now just keep just chugging along here, because there is no sort of stressor that everybody's focusing on the stock market. Now, I would argue that probably not a lot of people are going to focus on the stock market, and I think even less people are going to focus on things like crypto. So if we look at the weekly price chart, I might make the argument that we actually banged up against a pretty significant trend line there last week. Everybody in this space should have learned from this experience: buy the rumors, sell the news. So it's so cliche. Also, too, if you're watching this, and maybe just put a note in the comments, or just in the chat there, that you do acknowledge this, because it's super important that you do. Was this time any different? Has this played out basically exactly the way these always play out? There's no difference here. And I hate to say it, because I even had some people that I consider our friends, and they did pay me substantial amount of money to take my courses and learn from my 35 years experience in the market. And they even themselves were saying, oh no, this time it's different. They actually got sucked into this euphoria here. So you can imagine, for a guy like Brian, it's a bit frustrating. Get a bit salty up here. Try to warn the public, but nobody listens. The interesting thing now is, though, that we've been correcting now for 17 weeks. That's pretty long. 17 weeks. So, as I had said in the lounge this morning, you can only stretch the rubber band so far for so long. And this rubber band has been basically bearish now for, like I said, this is now what, like almost 4 months. Some point, but you're just going to run out of sellers. And I think to a certain degree, that's what's happened here. You don't really see it on the weekly price chart. I would actually make the argument that this is our sort of time-tested moving average system. The weekly, or not I mean, I don't think anybody else at TRI follows any of the stuff that I teach or that I suggest to people. So, it was Brian's time-tested system for identifying trend. One thing that bothered me immensely when we were running up here, and you all can learn from this, I sure hope you can learn from this, is, you need to recognize when these moving averages, keep in mind, this is a weekly price chart. So when these moving averages start getting really far apart, that's a warning that, hey, this is unsustainable and they need to come back together. So I might argue that this 17 weeks, it's done nothing more than taken the fluff, the stupidness out of price. What we really don't want to see is we don't want to see these moving averages actually cross over bearish. If we do, then at best, we're going to have to go through a period like this where I guess here was our bearishness and we're like all waiting with bated breath. And you remember Mr. Fink came out right at this level and said, I want my ETF. Remember we had SBF trial and all that kind of fun stuff all through here. And this is November. So there's October, November. I actually do like that kind of scenario. You can see when our next big eclipse window is coming down the pike. So you know that there's going to be some fireworks through that event. There always is. Question here is, I would ideally like to see something like that. That would actually make me feel better. Can we rally all the way back up to trendline resistance here? I don't see why not. And if anything, what I have noticed is that the market does like to rally into these FOMC events. So we've got an FOMC event there coming latter part of this month. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bit of a rally into that. But again, the question ultimately is, how does this resolve here? And then does that set a base for us to move higher? That's the bullish scenario, but we could very easily have to head down and clean ourselves up here through that eclipse window, something along those lines. And ironically enough, that would actually technically be in our best interest here. Because at some point the market will have to come back to these 38.2s. This is almost like let's just clean up the excess, kind of like the way the moving averages had to come together. If anything, it would have been better that they had just dumped this thing down and tagged things like 50% levels, rip the band-aid off, as they say, and then we set the base for the next run up. If we don't, and we keep, I even heard people talking about how they're pumping the market now. So if we're right back into all this bullishness and everybody's rah bull, then again, as I said, if the stock market's making new highs here, there's no way the Fed's going to cut rates in the face of that. This might actually end up being a scenario, something along those lines, which I really don't want to see. Point here is I can't really get bullish of this until we see some sort of W. And this, you can see this is 17 weeks to carve out this massive M. There's no reason why we couldn't take 17 weeks to carve out some sort of W here. Maybe this is some massive fractal, but that would point a breakout for like November, which would make sense. As I've been telling all of you, I don't know who in their right mind would put down like serious money ahead of this massive political event, because clearly the priorities of our society are going to change dramatically if Mr. Trump wins the election. And I actually think that, how do I say this? I think that we're in a, believe it or not, even though it's very difficult to understand because of the great reset that's going on here, I actually think we're in a commodities bear that goes on all the way to 2035. The only problem, of course, is they're doing the great resetting bullshit. So what's actual real value for a lot of these assets? That's another question for another day. But with regard to something like Bitcoin, I think the most important thing that you should all keep in mind is what is cost of production? Because cost of production basically is value. And in a weird sort of way, you kind of want to be buying against lows, buying when everybody's not interested, buying when we're below value, and then you want to be selling when everybody else is going stupid and everybody else is saying this time it's different. You want to be spoon feeding the market and, of course, making money from your investment decisions. Very hard to do, very easy to say, but when it's actually happening, what ends up happening is as the market moves up, like here, then people all of a sudden the greed starts coming out, right? And they start saying things like, well, you know what? This time it's different. And no, I'm not going to sell half on double, which would be a good, prudent, sort of financial planner kind of approach. I'm going to sell half on 100x because I want that Lambo. I've been waiting to buy that Lambo for the past 10 years, and this is my opportunity. Obviously, conservative financial planner kind of guys, they're not going to talk that way. But crypto kids, what the hell? You know, you happen to catch the dragon by the tail and ride that bitch hard. And if it works out for you, great. Life-changing events. Ironically enough, usually almost exactly at the point when these crypto people come out and start saying things like this time it's different, life-changing events, the move has already happened. And you better have taken profits. Because if you haven't, and as soon as they start saying this stuff, expecting another leg higher, and they want more people to come in and buy and keep bidding the price up, that's actually the trap. So anyway, there's one guy in particular, LTO. If you ever hear that guy come out with some sort of bullish comment, run for the hills. He's like Swiss watch precision at calling tops in the market with his public comments. It's shocking how brutal the guy is. But anyway, it's here nor there. But if we, like thinking about 17 weeks in duration, the rubber band can only be stretched so far. My feeling here is that we've gone through a bit of a pivot here. And what was really interesting is, in the newsletter, I had pointed out that I actually did some buying into that panic dump there a week or so ago. And I even posted on the site, I was like, this feels like we just went through a major pivot. So like this spell, for example, and I did, like I said, a couple others along the same lines. Actually, you can't even see it. See if we can zoom in on that. Do I have it over here somewhere? There it is. So look at, if anything, and ironically enough, this has become sort of my favorite candlestick. And unfortunately, when you see this candlestick happen, though, it's impossible to buy in hindsight. But big fan of Julian's favorite fib. I think all of you, if you trade crypto, you should take a screenshot of this and go, I am only placing my stink bids at 88.6s from now on. And I mean, look at that absolutely insane candle. This one candle, I absolutely love these candles now. What it does mean, though, unfortunately, is that we could very easily come back down into this tail here very easily. And I might even argue that if you did want to buy this thing going forward, I would watch that level like a hawk. Candle body lows for trade location. That clearly should be a pivot. Are you going to be able to get in off of my level down here? I doubt it, but we'll see. Only time will tell. And the good part about this is hopefully you can see that actually getting that double off is actually not really that difficult here. Since I got this absolutely insane fill buying basically against the bottom end of the range here. Now, all it's going to take is, I don't even need to get a 50% retracement of this move from that March peak all the way down to this July low. I don't even need a 50% bounce to get actually a free position established on this thing. Gotta tell you folks, this is the way that you build massive wealth in this world. Because once, first off, is this double level realistic? I think so. I don't think it's unrealistic. So you just work that order. I mean, this thing might just have to bang around here for the next 6 months, but so fucking what? You come in here and you bought against the bottom end of the range. Are you really in a big hurry? This is basically the same kind of thing. Maybe you had your stink bid working 88.6 of that range. You got filled there. And you have to sit there for 6, 8 months. I mean, just doing nothing. And you find, and I see this happen all the bloody time, that your stink bid fill that was filled, say, down in here, ultimately the market W's off of that exact same level. So I wouldn't be surprised if, this is going to take some time to ultimately bottom. But I also wouldn't be surprised too that down the road, we see then actually interesting that I drew this just freehand, right? I mean, there's a W, there's a W. So maybe this is my subconscious talking to you, but I would not be surprised one bit that our ultimate bottom comes in. And I definitely think this is going to take a few months to play out. And actually, a really good illustration. We're doing this report on the site right now, which I really like. I think this is incredibly smart. Let's see, what do I have in here? I actually asked Chris if he could put together the data for us. My question is, I don't know where the hell I put it. Did I do it in the video? Oh yeah, here it is. So this is absolutely cool. So like we put together this weekly commodity trend survey. Let's see if this works. I don't know whether this will do side by side. All right, no, it doesn't. So this was one image, and this is another image. Question is, which you tell me which market is which. So one of these markets was right here. And actually, I think that the report date actually was January, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, right in this window right here. Now, think about this in simplest terms, folks, right? We're here if you want to make money from trading, and that's debatable. I think a lot of people just come to this space and participate in this space with sort of like a hope of making money, a dream of making money, but also too a dream of being accepted by the cool kids, being social media acclaim. I guess I don't know if that's the right word or not. And as a result, what ends up happening, of course, and our Gucci sweater wearer is an absolutely perfect analogy of that, is, through this part of the market, when the market's going absolutely insane, this is where it's fashionable to be bullish of crypto. And the people that did buy down here on these W's, of course, they're sitting on huge profits. And people come to this space and they want to learn how to trade and they want to learn how to make money from trading. So they just think that, I've told all of you this repeatedly in the past, 90% of the public, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. 90% of the public, their research begins and ends here. And I've also shown you two before. Everybody should know this. Not really a big surprise. You want to buy some. This gentleman here even did a video like this back in 2015, and it's exactly the same. Nothing has changed. This is like 9 years ago, and absolutely nothing has changed. 99% of the public is basically this guy, and I sure hope he's doing well in life. I have no idea if he's doing well or poorly, but just sit and all you got to do is just sit and listen to the way that he talks through his little video. It's adorable. and he just goes, oh, look at that. Bitcoin is up. Where's the percentage? Oh, Bitcoin's up 2.34%. Ethereum's up 1%. Ooh, BNB's up 1.37%. Ooh, Solana's up 4%. Oh, where are you, Solana? We're looking for you, right? And he's a Wulan, all that. But ironically enough, this is actually pretty much where the research begins and ends with a lot of people. So they don't see this kind of image. They don't see this. This is completely beyond their scope of understanding. So what is fascinating, though, is this is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. This is a weekly survey. So on a weekly basis, it's following that 13 EMA, 30 SMA on the weekly price charts. It's identifying weekly ranges. Well, you should look at this and go, well, that Beamish guy, he loves his 50% rule. So I should probably take like a low down here and add it to the high here and divide that by 2. And that should give us our 50% rule, or where we should see the market oscillate back to. I mean, just for fun, let's see what we got there. This is the crypto market cap minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. Really, that's what this image is here. And you can see, I mean, I have here on reload zones and all that. But if I was just keeping it really, really simple, don't, reload zones, fibs, all that, it's a little bit convoluted. Let's just keep it really simple. WD GAN 101, 50% rules, right? There's the low, there's the high, there's the 50% rule. So ironically enough, if the market is above this level, I would say it's not really that attractive. Why? Because the market needs to come back and trade back to the 50% rule. And boom, there it is. You just saw it happen. I mean, you've never seen if you actually fancy yourself, you know what? I want to be a trader. I want to see the world traders see. I don't want to see this world. I mean, it's great. It's fun. You can sit in chat rooms and talk about what's your favorite coin and what it's going to do and why. I don't want to see this world. This is like short-term crack addict kind of world where you're scrolling through and going, okay, where's the big winner? Where's the big winner? Okay, it'll just keep going if I just, all right. Oh, look at this energy swap of 5.77. Oh, look at it breaking the new highs. Okay, I got to go in there and buy that. I mean, that's just, you're not doing yourself any favors going that approach. But this 50% rule, this was actually one of the very first technical analysis tools I ever learned. This is Kenny Roberts, TA 101, 1980s. I get my commodities price charts in the mail. All the level 3ers actually show them some of the marketing material I used to get from Kenny back in the 1980s. And it's almost funny looking at it as like in the Stone Age of trading. But anyway, really simple. So, next time you hear anybody in the public sort of saying, well, this time it's different and price is running up here, just throw on a 50% rule and go, you know what? Maybe your idea is really awesome, but I'm not going to even consider buying it until I see at least 50% retracement. So I know that I'm not walking into a trap. I mean, write that down. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like, something like that. I just taught you TA 101, the basics of how to make money at this business right there in the simplest of nutshell. Give me some feedback here. Somebody, maybe, I don't know, hit the like button if you feel like you're getting any value out of this. We got 45 people watching and 20 likes. Let's see if we can get 45 people. I guess that means that more than half of you watching this are like, man, this is shit. I don't know. I mean, this is TA 101. And it's the basis of this approach. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. Jason says 50% rule for the win. I mean, it'll just keep you out of a lot of trouble. It's simple as that. So anyway, this is the weekly commodity trend survey. And then the question I have for you, and of course, we'll call this screen A. and we'll call this screen B. Now, do you notice that there's something going on here? And the question is, when did this report get published? Where we had 1, 2, and this isn't even the best one. Like I said, I think there was another report that somebody had found where there was even more of these all spitting up attractive. But the only reason why they would be attractive is because they're at the bottom end of the range. And actually, it would be good, Chris, if you could, if you're gonna, we're gonna do screenshots of this. Actually, here's an interesting one. This was, and we don't even have the date on this, but I think this was the 29th of January. And here you can actually see we have 6s, but look at all the 5s. I mean, look at all these 5. It's right off the damn screen. And this is from January 2023. So the question here is, why are you here? I mean, honestly, people, why are you here? If you're here for Brian's colorful sense of humor, okay, I don't fault you on that. I can draw a pretty good crowd. I got a pretty good joke book. I can appreciate that. But I'll tell you, I would imagine most of you are not here for my sense of humor and for my rant. I mean, there are actually quite a few of you that love my rants, especially when I start laying into the stupid bankster cocksuckers. What a scam this world is. And the worst part about all this is the more that you understand how this world works, the more you actually see how entirely corrupt this species is and how evil this species is. And frankly speaking, if I was an alien and I looked down at this species, I would say, you know what? It's in our best interest to exterminate this infestation, this virus that this poor planet is suffering under sooner rather than later. Boom, there's a statement for you, eh? I would actually make the argument that this human species is actually a manufactured species, and I think you can actually consider the planet Earth as a petri dish. That's the way that I would look at the human species. We're in a petri dish, and there are a whole bunch of alien civilization species out there closely monitoring how the science experiment on this planet is going. But anyway, man, I digress. As I said, you're not here for that nonsense. All right. So BP Shogun says, love your rants on substitute drama teachers too. Oh God, isn't that guy a piece of work? And the worst part about it is that he's going to leave office. He's going to sort of evaporate into the background. You'll probably never hear of him again. He will start up a consultancy business, because anytime you have the ear of a former leader of a country, obviously all of the backroom dealings, SNC Lavalin, for example, a company in my country, I mean, they will basically kiss his ass for sweeping all of that corruption under the carpet and letting them get away with just staggering corruption. The We Charity people, same thing. There's another massive corruption. The Arrive scandal. I mean, literally tens of millions of dollars just evaporating. I mean, this scandal just one after another, after another, after another. And yet the son of a bitch is going to like literally skate out of here and basically go hang out in fucking WEF land. His little crony who had no business. How the hell did this woman get the job of fucking finance minister of a G7 country? I mean, it's stunning. Again, you can't write better fiction than reality. If we sat here 10 years ago and said some idiot that has absolutely no experience in the financial services industry is going to be running a G7 country's finance department, and oh, by the way, they are going to print more than, I mean, the number is staggering just since this COVID event, which really hasn't been that big of a deal. They have literally added I think like literally they've doubled the number of Canadian dollars in the system. They literally have printed this money out of thin air. And you wonder why we have hyperinflation in our country. And nobody gave them any permission to do this. They were never a majority government. So you can't even argue that the majority of Canadians are on their side. They cobbled together this screwy fucking coalition with a extremist left-wing socialist. And of course, they don't understand money management. Do you think anybody that's in the NDP party has even a clue of what the hell I talk about? Supply and demand and good economics and, play from a position of strength. None of this means anything to communists. They're just like, hey, here's the gun, here's the bullet. You don't do what we say, you're dead. That's how communist nations work. And really, that's the way Winnie the Pooh China works. Everybody should know that now. It shouldn't be, news to anybody. But what I find fascinating is how this son of a bitch is literally going to get away with completely, utterly destroying the fabric of our nation. It will take decades to recover from the destruction that this guy has done. And he's going to completely get away with it. There you go. You triggered me, Mr. Shogun. And 10 minutes later. Anyway, back to our story. So the point here is, can you tell me? And actually, I like this one way better than this one, Chris, because this one's got a whole bunch of tractives and there's not that many. Chris, can you hear me? I think Josh. Yeah, well, it says January 29th, 2023, I think it was. Yeah, hear this. I mean, this is just so perfect. Now, I mean, you tell me, if you had stepped up and actually taken this seriously, and do you remember, let's do a little survey. And interesting how when I went through that rant, all of a sudden we started to lose people viewing. They're like, oh God, here he goes. They started to drop off. Got to bounce. So yeah, we started to lose people. Anyway, so the bottom line here is, had you taken this report seriously, and there's 40, 50 of you on YouTube watching. So the point being, let's see how many of you can remember, because quite a few of you probably are regulars. How did the expression go when this was happening? What was Brian telling you to do? Get your what together? I mean, this is stunning. This is absolutely stunning, people, because it's basically history repeating itself. And the interesting thing is, if we go back to the Bitcoin chart, I think we could make the exact same argument right here. Identical. That through this part of the cycle, when the market, especially if it ever gets down below 78.6s of previous ranges, I was barking, get your what together. Sugar, honey, iced tea. All right. Oh, I see. SHIT. Nicely done, snowboarding JJ. And then we had a pullback. And of course, this was the sickness. It wouldn't surprise me that the 1% manufacture some sort of event just along these lines and do exactly the same thing to us once again. I think this rally actually came a little too far, too fast here. But I might argue that, we're somewhere down in here right now. I don't know whether we're going to do this and then just go sideways and then move up. The correction, the previous cycle, and you can say you are here now. I think that this cycle is actually more like this one, which means that we're somewhere right in this window right now. But what's fascinating about this, and unfortunately we weren't running the site then, This the weekly commodity trend survey. But this is exactly the same. In fact, actually, I would prefer, let's put that one away. Let's use Josh's here. And the question ultimately is, of course, this is actually written on here. But would you be able to tell me the difference between all these sixes and fives? And look at them all, they're fucking everywhere. And what the system is telling us now. I mean, at the very top of the market, and if anything, what we should do, Chris, maybe you can do this while I'm gone, is we should go back and see what the system was saying when we were up here. So could you do me a favor and just scroll back through the beginning of 2024, especially into like March, April of 2024? What was the dashboard saying about the number of assets that were attractive and that we should be hunting long setups? Pardon me? Well, no, but we have all the daily briefs. So, what I would ask is, can you just peruse through all the daily briefs that we spat out there in March and April and just see if there's a screenshot that just so happens to show what the weekly commodity trend survey looked like? I don't know. If you can't, no biggie. I'll maybe try and do this tonight when I get back from Liam. But my hunch is, my knee jerk is that we probably saw that there were no fives and sixes up here, or maybe a few fives, but nothing like this, right? Where it's like right across the board. Nothing like this, where it's just right across the board. Now, does this mean that the market goes straight up tomorrow? Hey, there's Jim and Liz. Hey, I hope you guys still plan to be down there for February. So good to see. Here we are. Jim and Liz, do you see now what I was talking to you guys and what I was trying to warn you about my birthday and Liz's birthday? And then we shouldn't think about the market turning until that July 4th weekend. Do you guys get that now? Are you on board with me? Because man, I remember specifically trying to explain this to you, but I don't think you guys were listening to me, and that's fine, right? Because frankly speaking, most new people that get to know me, they half of what I say when I first meet them, they're just like, "Well, that guy's out there. He is not like the rest of the people in this space." So, and actually, this is a good opportunity. So, I'll put this kind of concept away. But what the point here is, if you fancy yourself, you want to make money from trading and you want to actually make money, like, why are you actually here? Then what this means, again, are we in the end of 2023, beginning of 2024? I don't really care. But do you see that this is when, if you are serious about making money, you have to step in on the buy side as the fucking world is melting down? And what do you think the public is thinking right here about the market? And is the public kind of thinking the same thing now? Now, the point here is you can see that really through this entire, geez, what is that? That's basically about 7, 8 months. We didn't really go a hell of a lot lower, did we? We rallied off of the lows. Then we came right back down. We tested the lows. Then we rallied back up. Then we came back down, tested the lows. Then we rallied up. Then we came down, tested low. Then we rallied up. Then we tested low. What letter of the alphabet are we carving out here? And most importantly, every new technician, this is the fucking holy grail. No, I'm not the best. I'm far from that. I'm an idiot. But hopefully there is some wisdom in some of the stuff that I say to you guys. I wish I was the best. But I don't think that's the Lord's plan for me. The Lord's plan for me, I honestly think, is I don't know what the Lord's plan for me is. Every time I start to think about, all right, this is something I really want to do, it ends up just falling apart right in front of my face. So I don't know. I think the Lord's plan is that I'm supposed to sit here and say, God, whatever your plan is, JoJo, spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever your plan is, I'm in your hands. And you guys just drive the bus wherever you want me to go. That's where I'll go. and don't have any plans, don't have any aspirations. And really, I mean, I hate to say it, but well, no, I won't go down that road. I'll just simply say here is I think the Lord's plan for me is to just try and be the demonstrator of best practices for you guys and try and somehow get this message out to the world. Anyway, so it's not a surprise that the this weekly commodity trend survey that I built 1 million years ago to try and help me make good investment decisions when I was an investment advisor, which is based purely on a contrarian look at the world. You want to buy down markets, you want to force yourself to step in on down markets. It's trying to tell you, ironically enough, this report is actually trying to help you, because it's basically saying, if you can force yourself to do the exact opposite to what the public is thinking and what the public is doing, that's the way that you make money in this game. Now, if you're like a little old lady, and anybody, of course, who's taken the education program understands that that is a risk management approach to how you're going to invest your money in the marketplace, then you have to actually force yourself to start accumulating. And the interesting thing is that there is a lot of assets, whether it be the bigger markets. So these are all the little old lady positions that we have on the books. And you can see the W's coming in as we speak, whether it be like your investment decisions, right? So we have a larger portfolio that's invested in all of these names. Or whether it be, ironically enough, whether it be things like the poop coins and having fun in meme coin land. They're all looking the same. So you can see, I bought this here, sold half on a double, gets your original capital back. Market tanks, starts putting in W's. What a surprise. Brian's in there buying this stuff back. It doesn't make any difference. That's the irony of this stupid game. Actually, I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to tell you that I got filled here. But my stink bid here is not quite filled. I was kind of hoping I could show you a fill there. But if you look at this chart, it's basically the same logic. And there's tons of these that are all looking like this right now. So not necessarily like, oh my God, pound the table. This thing's just screaming buy. More like they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If you are a contrarian by nature, now is when you really need to be paying attention. And if you want to take the timing out of the equation, then just throw yourself on a Nanny Nibbles little old lady plan. Our level 1 instructor is really, really good at explaining it to our level 1 program students. So it's not rocket science. It's nice and simple. So there's my stink bid working down at 78.6s. I mean, you tell me, does this not look like that spell chart? Does this not look like, what was the one that I bought? The BNT. I mean, does this not look like that shadow? I mean, hopefully you see. Ironically enough, it's not rocket science what I do, but what you have to make damn sure is that when these things are going stupid up like this, you have to sell into this strength and not, can you learn this? I don't know. And the worst part about it is through a year, of course, I hear all these people, including previous students, that really pissed me off because the guy is actually doing nobody in the public any favor. And he's actually going to cause a lot of people a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. And the irony of it all is he actually might end up getting himself killed because he lives in a world where if you screw somebody over, and it might not even be intentional, but you're perceived as an expert in the space and you say it's perfectly fine to go and buy Bitcoin at $70,000, and they end up going and buying and the investment goes down 20-30%, and they put like $1 million into this, your life is actually worth less than that loss because a contract to take out your life might only be like 50 G's. And there's a lot of people in this. I mean, Jesus, a political person here just got, and it'd be interesting to see what the motivations of this guy who took a pop at Trump were. My hunch is down the road, we're going to mysteriously find out that there's some association with him and the bankster crooks. Wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, point here is, can you force yourself not to do anything through here? Or if you're really lucky, can you force yourself to actually sell and take profits into that event? And I'm not sure what happened to Bird Eye here. I've been waiting for weeks for them to get these little bubbles back, but they're just not coming back for this silly position, which is a little frustrating. Anyway, so point here is you probably hear that I'm a little bit more relaxed in my conversation with all of you, because ironically enough, I'm not worried about the market crashing because it already has. It's already dumped. And it's actually now gotten to the point where there's a lot of these names that actually I'm more than happy to go in and start buying again. So whether it be an image like this, oh yeah, hey, Julian's favorite fib. Oh yeah, I think I like that idea. Or whether it be an idea like the where the hell did I put it? Anyway, I'll just load it back up here. Whether it be this, the weekly commodity trend surveys telling you to start paying attention again. This was back in January 2023. And man, that was a pretty freaking good signal. Excuse me, burp, fart, tweet, whole thing. So now, actually, what I wanted to get to, and unfortunately, I'm probably running out of time now. Jesus, that's incredible how that time goes by so bloody quickly. But we talked there a little bit about the weekly price chart. What's really interesting is when you drill down to the daily price chart, and you heard me saying that, you can only stretch the rubber band so far for so long, and at some point it has to snap back. Really, I think that's exactly what's happening here now. We're having that snapback. You heard me talk about 50% rules. We probably should draw a 50% rule off of that low back up to the high. But if we take it one step further, let's even just look at a daily price chart. So one of the reasons why I use the moving averages that I do is because I like the way that they sort of work together over different time frames. So you can see here the 30 SMA on the weekly chart is very, very similar to the 200 SMA on the daily charts. So I do think that we banged into that 200 SMA, and let's call a spade a spade. There's no sense in bullshitting about this. What letter of the alphabet does this look like? Well, let's move this over here. Remember, that was that panic dump day that and also too, there's a really good lesson for everybody. This panic dump happened because a country was selling off its Bitcoin holdings. Is that because Bitcoin itself is broken? No. Is it because somebody has hacked Bitcoin and you can actually steal Bitcoins from another person? No. So did it have anything to do with the actual Bitcoin fundamental story at all? No. And yet, basically absolute utter chaos in the market, complete destruction. Oh my God, sky's falling. So much so that there are actually guys that are influencers in this space. This Justin Sun guy who goes, look at Germany, look at, slow down here. Look at, just if you want to sell Bitcoins, just I'll buy all your Bitcoins off of you. We'll do it OTC, and then that way you don't wreck the market here. But the question I would have is, was that maybe done intentionally? And I would definitely say in this world, now that basically ironically enough, the communists and the capitalists are in bed together to just fuck the public over. But I might actually make the argument that the capitalists, they knew, Fink and all those kind of jerks, they knew exactly what was going on here. And they probably even instructed German government to do exactly what they did. Of course, because I only have a few hundred viewers, won't get me into hot water. If I had thousands of viewers and tens of thousands of viewers and I had said that, I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Fink actually would sue me for saying something like that. But anyway, obviously, I can't prove that in a court of law, so he gets away with it. But I do think that dump there was intentional. Why? Because if you actually look at the way the momentum picture was working, anybody who is a student of mine knows specifically, and keep in mind that all the people that write algos in this world, they're all privy to the same kind of concept information. But if this yellow line ever gets below minus 80, do we have any business being a seller of this asset? And the answer is an unequivocal no. Absolutely not. Right? This is the market being stupid. Who sells here? The public sells here. Do they make good investment decisions? No. They usually make horrible investment decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin is a buy, and it doesn't even mean that the downtrend is over, but it definitely means at this point on the price chart, you're stupid if you're a seller. And sure enough, once again, Mr. Willie here proved his net worth, that I think you are a stupid idiot if you are coming in and selling down in this area. You're just asking for trouble. And now, right, this is a concept that we teach in our education program. Again, German government coming in and liquidating their Bitcoins here. You could argue that this is in divergence. So if the market could actually get back up through this high here, this market is actually telling you that it is much stronger than what price would lead you to believe. Now, who in their right minds is going to go and sell this asset in some sort of panic dump into a situation, especially, if you're a fan of Julian, you know how these W's work. Who's supposed to be, what are we supposed to think if we see an actual W come in on the RSI study like that, the first W, right? And we'll even change the color to, what color should we give? Why don't we give it teal, right? Because I think teal is the color that we used to give this. When you see that W come in, what are you supposed to think? This stops the bear slide. Bear slide's over. This is an oversold reading. German government would know that this was an oversold reading. And if you have any skill whatsoever as a technician, you got no business selling into here. So why would the German government do this? They're not all idiots. I mean, keep in mind, Marat is our German. He was a police officer, and I think he's a member of a lot of sort of German societies of technical analysis and stuff like that. He was on the Daily Brief on Friday. I thought he did an excellent job as always. We had a great conversation. I think they even called it on the site a nice podcast. This actually stops the bear. And then what's this second W mean? If you're a fan of RSI, right? What color do we usually paint this? We paint that yellow. That's actually a buy signal. That move right there is actually a buy signal if you use RSI right there. Now, is it a strong buy? No, right? Because it didn't come in through the 50 line way up top here. But interesting, look at the size of this W coming in now through that, again, not through the 50 line. But man, when you see all these W's, that's not bearish. If anything, you should be thinking higher. Notice that, starting all this off, look at these big M's up here, right? So, oh my God, the 10th of June, that's when you should have been like, oh boy, we got trouble. What was the 10th of June? Wow, that was there, right? Right off of that M top. down we go. Selling here? What are you, crazy? And considering the M top, huge sell signal, now we're getting this really wide base W. I don't know whether I would call that the buy. I think the buy was right here, but let's even just make the note of this, because I think this was your buy level right there. So it was that, and actually interesting that one day, because this didn't break out here, right? Well, actually, maybe it did. What is that? 39.34 and 39.92. Okay, so it did. Boom. So right there, and let's make that a big ugly line so we can see it. That was right there. So you got yourself a buy signal in crypto on this event right here. I don't know. You tell me. Chung Chung, are we moving up? I think so. This is a daily price chart. Of course, yesterday was that big assassination attempt. I think all he wanted to do was just give Trump some earrings. Anyway, can you see the W? Down, up, down, breakout. And I might argue now, yeah, I think we now have A, B, C, Ds. So this is now looking at a lower time frame chart, trying to get an idea of where this buy signal would take us. That buy signal came in right here. So my hunch is, and actually I did another chart up. I don't know whether I have it on here, but I did another chart up with a whole bunch of cool levels on it, but I don't know what oh, you know what? I think I actually have it on my laptop. No, wrong computer. I think I posted it in the lounge. And what time is it? It's 22. Should probably circle back around and see if there's any questions in the Q&A document. All right, where are we? I don't see it. Darn. There's the Ethereum trade. I suppose we could talk about that for a minute. Nope. Don't seem to have it. All right, darn. Did have a cool chart that had just a whole bunch of what is that? Poor old Shannon Doherty. Too bad for her. I was sharing this image in the lounge earlier today. So you can see all these momentum. Look at all the momentum. Holy Shiite Muslim. I mean, there's just W's coming in everywhere here. Levels to consider, 61.8 fib off of this recent range, right up in there. 2.618 off of this W, right up in there. And of course, this existing downtrend line off of the original top, right up in here. I think you can make a pretty darn good argument that we should be looking for this reload zone. What a surprise. Reload zones? Has anybody ever talked about that in social media circles? Now I wanted to show there was a chart. Here it is. Cool. All right, now let's talk levels. So this is a 2-hour Bitstamp chart. You can see the ABCD 61,714. You can see just off of this range alone, reload zones 59.8 up to 61,600. Oh, there's a bit of confluence. But I did notice that off of this whole range, 61.8 all the way up there at like 64, 65,000. If we did a parking garage extension study off of this trading range, boom, 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 1.618. Oh, 200% parking garage level. And then if we go A, B, C, D, and we think alt A, B, C, D's 1.618, 64.9. So I was pretty darn impressed. And then also too, off of this huge wide double bottom. Remember, this was the German government selling Bitcoin. So that have anything to do with Bitcoin? No, just Germans hate Bitcoin. So they're selling everything off. All right. Okay, fine. So be it. Notice the W that came in right afterward, 2.618. I think that the market really wants this level right up here. So that's like the better part of 65 Gs. And also notice too, that's basically right up against that original market structure fail level. So if I was a betting man, that's where I'm thinking they want to take this market. I was kind of hoping I could show you off of this chart, but I don't think this is too small. All right. And also too, and this is sort of what I'm thinking if you're kind of a short-term player here, is actually this ICT guy, no idea what his name is. He talks quite a bit about this, and I think it's extremely valuable information. Just thinking about what is the market structure. So hopefully everybody sees, as soon as this M is confirmed here, boom, that's your big ass market structure is bearish. And then you get sort of affirmation that boom, new lows, okay, more bearish structure. And then affirmation of more bearishness, boom, more bearish structure. So if we really want to think bullish, we have to break this pattern of lower highs and lower lows. So with that, and how do you do that? Well, the simplest way you do that is price just simply goes up and smashes this previous bearish structure level. And then that way, the M's that are dominating are no longer in effect. And so what that means is that really this price should work its way up. If this really is a bull, should work its way up and smash that high. And then Mr. ICT guy, he likes, he uses his fair value gaps and all that. I'm not going to really get into any of that. But the point that I see quite often that ends up happening is the market pulls back to 61.8 following whatever this rally is off of these lows, and mysteriously you see that the market turns right in this window. And if that does happen, then hopefully what you see is shoulder, neckline, right? We've gone and broken that previous bearish structure. Then we come down, make shoulder, and hopefully what you see is shoulder, head, neckline, shoulder, breakout, inverted head and shoulders, which means that we can start thinking about things like parking garage moves heading up. So extensions, and there becomes your new price objective, which really shouldn't surprise us, right? Because interesting, off of that double bottom, notice there's 4.669s. And really all this market is saying is, and this is assuming that this plays out. I mean, not making any predictions here. If we go blasting straight up here and we don't have the pullback, all right, we go blasting up here and there is no pullback, then there is no inverted head and shoulders, and that comes off the table. But if it plays out this way, then what it's really saying is the corn wants to take a shot right back up to new all-time highs. The market's going to do whatever the hell the market wants to do. And what I would simply say to sort of the people that are like, well, I thought you were bearish, Ryan. I'm only bearish when the market tells me to be bearish. And of course, that seasonal window, I've been barking to you guys that once this July 4th holiday weekend is over, we're now back into this seasonal pattern where actually this asset should outperform. My hunch is, for whatever it's worth, is we're going to rally up into this reload zone. We're going to rally against these trend lines. We're going to hit 2.618, and then we're going to stall out. I just don't think that this market has enough oomph behind it to get behind that. But as I've said repeatedly, I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to predict what's going to happen. But I would just simply say, as you've seen all the double bottoms in indicators, in price, all that kind of fun stuff. So that technically does mean that if we do get any kind of W, I don't really like the look of this. I would prefer that we get a W on the other side of this trend line. But if we can get any kind of W that comes in anywhere along those lines, there might actually be a really cute little Bitcoin trade that does, I'm always asking you guys to look for at least 2 to 1s if you're thinking about risking your hard-earned money in the marketplace. 2 to 1 on this, something that develops like this is really just, there's 2.618, there's 61.8, there's another 2.618. I mean, I suppose it's a little bit front running, but I wouldn't fault you if you had said, well, Brian, I love W's, so I'm going to buy that W down, up, down, breakout, and I'm going to force myself to take partial profits at 2 to 1, which means that there's my price objective, 78.6, right up in that area. And I'm long right now. I'm just loving it. But I would just simply say is if you did take that trade, then at 50% of whatever your anticipated move is, probably best to move your stop to scratch at that point. And if this is some sort of inverted head and shoulders, like I said, and we rally up into that line and then we back off, and then maybe, heaven forbid, we actually M out and start to break down, then if we do come all the way back down to your original entry, which would negate this head and shoulders going through that low, then you just walk away at scratch. No big deal. If you wait for this kind of signal here, then I don't think it's going to be a head and shoulders. But this would probably paint like A, B, C, D, which would take us up into this area, which would produce that 2 to 1. And same logic there. If this setup happens to come in and you're going to trade that, then at 50% of your anticipated move, probably a good idea to move your stops to scratch and just, live by the sword, die by the sword. So any way you shake it, it looks to me like this market is trying to turn back up. We've got momentum. We've got trade location. I mean, we are basically against the bottom end of the range. We have been going along, 17 weeks here in this correction. This is kind of an interesting setup as well. Notice we go through, in this particular case, notice how this pivot low, we rallied for 21 bars up to this high. Then we consolidated for 48 bars all the way down. Then notice 21 bars from low all the way up to this high. Looks a little familiar. Then notice 47 bars. And actually, we could even move that over, right? 48 bars. Hey, it's the same. From that peak down to that low. I've done this with you guys before. I did have another chart that painted these FOMC events and then the Fed minute events. So fascinating how this low, if we take 21 bars from low to high, notice 21 bars takes us right into FOMC event. So I'm here now. Somebody write this down. Take a voice print of this. I am telling you right now, I fully believe that this market is going to rally into that FOMC event, which is basically the end of July. There you go. Talk about making a prediction, eh? I don't know whether I really like making predictions like this. I would prefer that you just trade your setups. And if you're like, buying, I bought this W, I'm going to take some profits at 2 to 1s, and I'm going to risk against the lows of this W. That actually is much more professional than saying, I predict that the market will rally into this FOMC event. I like this thinking. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's really in our best interest to predict the future. I mean, did anybody on Friday afternoon say that somebody's going to take a pop at Trump this weekend? No, because you can't predict the future. It's impossible. So anyway, let's keep that sort of roadmap out in the back of our minds. And then I'd also say too, we've got Feigenbaum supporting the idea of the market rallying up here because these W's have confirmed. And of course, as we said, we've got lots of momentum here behind this market. This is not a sell right now. If this is actually a sell, this is going to take several bars, several days, several sessions, whatever you want to call it, to actually start emming out and breaking down. It's just gone and spent like a couple weeks Wing out here. So at the very least, give this a couple weeks to sort of recover out of this sort of egregiously oversold zone here before you actually start thinking short again. And in that kind of window, this is what should end up happening. You notice that sneakily, these little altcoins are all going to just mysteriously start to go crazy. And I noticed that in cycles before, good old Cripple and XLM Stellar Lumens, they usually rally first. And you can see the W down, up, down. This is the day I bought Spell and BNT and stuff. But hell, you could see this W. You came in just a couple days ago and just said, Brian, I buy W's, and bang, look at that. Already 2.618s have already been hit. So you can literally see the bull is coming back to life. And the irony of it all is, if you had said down here, yeah, I think this is a bottom, this is it, just get in there and buy, and you'll be starting to bang out doubles right away. I mean, nobody was talking like this. And just one by one, as these W's come in, are you a trader? Remember, we're statisticians by trade. You don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And I would say 60, 70% odds. This is good old Cripple. You can see it did exactly the same thing, if my stupid mouse will work. So you can see down, up, down, breakout. And look at what's happened. So, it's there. Whether you do something with this information or not, the information doesn't change cycle in, cycle out. It's always the same thing. Try and buy against the bottom ends of range, sell against the top ends of range. This would be a really good example where the trade's just working away. And at 50% of the anticipated move, you simply move your stop to scratch. So that's already happened. So had you bought this, I think the smart thing to do at this point is move your stop to scratch. If this thing pukes out, fine, you walk away at scratch. Big fucking deal. But my hunch is this thing's probably got a date with all of these highs up here. And the irony of it all is, let's do good old fog and bombs, and that'll probably give you a pretty good upside objective. Question is, has already been hit. Oh, look at that. So 2.6. This is actually a really good lesson. I could spend a half an hour just on this chart alone. But the consolidation around 2.618 is actually telling you, I think, that if we don't lose this low now, because that's nice inside bar, if we tick up higher, then it means that the market is accepting 2.618, which means next stop should be 4669. And then if we do silly things like reload zones against the previous range, we should probably find that, oh, look at that, 4.669 and good old Mountain Man. And of course, wicks and tails like to bean. We all know that there's a whole bunch of trap bulls right in that wick right there. So, they desperately want to get out. And then I wouldn't also be surprised, maybe not on this particular pair, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a gap right up in here that needs filling in. Oh, hello. So who can tell me, what is the statistical probability that this hole will be filled in at some point down the road? Right there. So talk about confluence. 4.669 Mountain Man gap and a nice juicy wick for a whole bunch of trap bulls that bought this up here, want desperately to get out. Man, that stuff writes itself. I mean, it's just right there. It's literally happening right in front of our eyes. So my challenge to you would be, show me the next W, because you've missed this trade. You can't touch this now. I mean, just scrolling through these, look at what Link is doing here. This is basically a trader's life. You don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't get into the business of predicting what's going to happen. But I would just simply say is, I really love when those darn things W, because that's usually a pretty good odds that will make some money. Maybe actually you go down, up, down, breakout. So I'm going to risk against this low here. So I'm going to buy that breakout. It's coming. It's up to you whether you take it. And there is 2-1 right there. And of course, if the W does come in, there we go. And that means we can start thinking about things like fog and bombs. Actually, this is an interesting one. It'd be interesting to see if that low, well, let's be conservative. We'll go off of that one. All right, so 2.618. And of course, as we said, if we do see 50% of the move in your favor happen, it's not a bad idea to move your stop to scratch. So this is a good example where we run up, we hit 2.618, and you're just going to simply move your stop to scratch, because if we fail at 2.618 and we have to come back down, you might find that actually they run these lows. So anyway, I mean, there's a trade idea. Don't say the Bima share never gave you an idea to chew on. I think that's a perfectly viable trade idea right there, staring you in the face. So anyway, opportunity is now here. And oh, I like this. Look how we came down here. We washed all these lows right into mountain man levels. What this tells me is we probably are still within a bear, but we're through this summer, the seasonal window where things are really weak. Just blame that Liz. Tell you, she single-handedly stops these bull markets with her birthday. So we're through that event. We're through the July 4th holiday weekend. All the kids are now comfortably in mom's basement. They've all got their crypto setups all ready to rock and roll, and the shills are about to begin. I don't know what's going to happen here, but it is fascinating to see. You can literally see this stuff setting itself up right in front of your eyes. Okay, I probably completely butchered this broadcast because I was supposed to do things like answer questions. It is now 1 o'clock. Way to go, Brian. But again, I thought this is actually pretty valuable. I didn't know if I was going to be able to find 2 hours of content for you guys here today. And yet, actually, I think I walked you through the whole damn market. Literally from what's the higher time frame message? It looks like we're pivoting off a trend line to what's the lower time message of Bitcoin, probably looking for rallies back up top, to walking you through some of the buys that I've done recently and my expectations going forward. Of course, sell halves on double orders. You should get those working right away as fast as possible. And just to have them working, this is just good business practices. Here's a good example where, maybe you have that right there. So that might just slow it down. Really good example why this is not a buy signal on that break above there. Oh boy. This thing probably needs to bump around here for a while. And actually, I want my W to come in on the other side of this trend line. I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, this one's an interesting one because we probably have to go there to there. And that obviously has been broken. So now the next trend line is there to there. So what that says to me is if we can accept above this trend line, which I don't think we're going to do now, but I could very easily see us come right back up against this trend line here. And if I'm lucky, we get maybe a nice pop here, but I really need to see W's on the other side of this trend line. And then I think, probably going forward into maybe even early next year kind of idea, we probably get our move up in, and then that's that wicks and tails like to be eaten, release the trap bulls, blah, blah, blah. Sell halves on doubles, all that kind of talk. Also, too, as I said, our proprietary system is telling you in the public and site members, at some point, I suppose I probably should not talk to you people in the public about how these signals are coming in, but they're coming in. And really, this is what I would say is the value of having a TRI site membership, is that you can literally watch this develop real time right on your dashboard. The question is, will you actually respect the information? And oh boy, that's how you make money from trading, folks, is you got to buy at the bottom and sell into the tops. Anyway, okay. I think I basically talked this thing into the ground here today. And actually, I really do like that forecast. So I think that over the next, I'd say 21 days from this capitulation low here, but you can see that it's not written in stone. Was this the capitulation low day? 48 bars happen to have this as the capitulation low day. But I would say I do find it incredibly coincidental that 21 days takes us right into that FOMC event. So my hunch is that the market's going to grind its way up into this FOMC event. That's my hunch. So anyway, if you can make money in the juniors, like I told you, the Stellars, the Cripples, all them, they're moving. I will also say too, though, man, this was the trading plan on this Ethereum short. We did make sure to actually book a trade here. You can even see it right at the 2-to-1. This is the free position that's left on. I think same sort of idea that counter trend rallies here on Ethereum take us into wicks and tails like to be eaten. Foggenbaum levels, AB equals CDs, trend line tags. I don't think that this is going to get stopped out here, but who cares? That's not the point. The point here is we already booked half the profit. Stops at scratch right now. So you can't get hurt on this. This is a risk-free trade. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone and just let it do its thing. And if it gets stopped out, so fucking what? So anyway, we'll just leave that working. There's really no reason to touch that. I suppose you could make the argument, well, Brian, do you want to maybe try and come in and buy against these lows here and trade this up here? You could. I wouldn't fault you if you had that, but I already had this short working, and I'm just going to leave it alone and just let it work. And let's see what happens, how this plays out over time. Okay, as I said, I didn't really do a very good job of answering questions here today. Thank you very much for your best wishes with Liam. Appreciate that, MM. That is by far my most important job here. And actually, I think I was reminded by the universe this weekend that Liam still is my priority here. And until I have his situation sorted out, I have to keep him as a priority here. So it's interesting how the universe works that way, but it is what it is. So on that note, I think I'm going to bid you all a fond adieu. If there were questions that were asked in the Q&A document, then I am going to address them in tomorrow's after party. So if you did ask a question, don't feel like you got jilted. Just make a note that I am going to circle around and address those questions in the after party tomorrow. And if you did ask a question here in the YouTube chat, I really appreciate your participation. Please don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I just got off on a fucking tear there today and I just didn't stop. That was 2 hours long. And I don't even think I took a breath through all that. So try and figure that out. So I'm going to, if you did ask a question and you are a site member, or even if you're not a site member, I tell you what, if you're not a site member, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to come on over to the site and sign up even for the 30-day trial. We have the daily brief request room. And usually if I don't see questions in the AMA document, I'll come over here and you can see people like DDBB and CNN stuff are always asking questions. The more questions you ask, the better. That's how you learn in this world. So if you did ask a question on YouTube and you didn't feel like you got proper attention, come on over to the site, put your question into the DB request room, and I will definitely address this tomorrow in the after party. Okay, so thanks. I'm not American, so by definition, that means I cannot be the president of the United States of America. And frankly speaking, I don't think I'd ever want that job. It's completely thankless. But PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins a race. Remember what your number one job is, folks. Your number one job is to avoid getting suckered. I hate to say it, right? Try and force yourself to buy against lows, sell against highs. You know how this game goes if you've listened to me long enough. And ironically enough, I'd actually say, especially within a lot of the altcoin space, I actually think opportunity is now here. The question here is, can you take a contrarian approach to investing? because that's the way that you make money in this world. You got to be buying when others are crying and selling when others are yelling. Okay, on that note, have yourselves a great rest of your weekend. Wish Liam and I luck on the roads today. And I got to get out of here. All the best and bye for now.